everybody, how's it going? Welcome to the show. Hope you guys have saved some room in that gas tank because it's time to go one more round with Rob. Hey guys, it's been a while. Glad to be back recording these things. You know, life got crazy there for a little bit. So for today's show, I'm just going to kind of give you guys a rundown of some of the what I think are some of the major events coming up in July for the UFC, Bellator, boxing, all that kind of stuff. So it's not going to be too in-depth kind of breakdown analysis kind of thing like the show normally is. It'll just kind of be a rundown, and these are probably going to be the shows that I favor more towards in some of the upcoming episodes. So I'll give you a quick rundown, and then I'm going to pick a couple of the cards and kind of give you my initial thoughts on how everything's going to break down with them. So, of course, have to start off with UFC 264 on July 10th, this coming Saturday, headlined by Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor 3. Obviously, this is a huge fight. In my opinion, could be one of the most anticipated fights of the year. So, got to start with that one. On that card, we also have Gilbert Burns making his first fight back since his unsuccessful title attempt against Kamaru Usman. He's going to be taking on Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, so not an easy fight right back for him. And then also Sugar Sean O'Malley gets back in there against Chris Moutinho. I'm not exactly sure how to say this guy's last name, guys. This guy is when I say an up-and-comer, he is legitimately an up-and-comer. This is going to be his first fight in the UFC. But like I said, we'll backtrack for a couple of these in a minute here. Next up, July 16th. It's a Friday night. Bellator 262 is going to be headlined by Juliana Velasquez versus Denise Kielholtz. The next night, July 17th, UFC is going to have another card. This one is going to be a fight night card, headlined by Islam Makhachev making his return against Thiago Moises. Also on this card, Miesha Tate is making her return after she's coming out of retirement. She's going to take on Marion Renaud. So two fights that'll be really good, especially in the middle of it to follow up that UFC 264 card the week before. Next up, July 24th. So the next week we have another UFC fight night. This one's going to be headlined by Corey Sandhagen taking on TJ Dillashaw, who's coming off of that 2-year suspension for being busted for erythropoietin EPO. July 31st. Again, next week following that is going to be two cards on the same night. UFC is going to have a fight night card. It's going to be headlined by Uriah Hall versus Sean Strickland. And then Bellator is going to have a card, Bellator 263, headlined by Patricio Pitbull versus AJ McKee. And this is going to be a semifinal round bout in the Bellator Featherweight World Grand Prix tournament, as well as a Bellator Featherweight World Championship bout, because Patricio Pitbull currently holds the featherweight title. So any fight that he's in has to be a title fight. So it's going to be really exciting, that one. And then, of course, for boxing, I think the biggest fight, honestly, I think the biggest fight of the year thus far, and in my opinion, this might be the biggest fight for boxing of the year. Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder 3, July 24th for the for Tyson Fury's WBC Heavyweight Championship of the World. So, like I said, guys, that's the rundown of the cards that I think are some of the bigger cards to kind of keep an eye out for this month. Here's what we'll do now. I'm going to circle back. I'm going to give you guys kind of my initial thoughts on some of these cards. Not all of them, but some of them. So, obviously, I'm going to start with UFC 264 this coming Saturday. Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor 3. Guys, this fight, I said this to friends and family, my girlfriend, when they asked me about when they asked me about Dustin versus Conor 2 back in January. I thought then it wasn't the smartest fight for Conor to be coming back on. I understand it wasn't like it wasn't his first fight back. He had the fight with Cowboy in January of 2020. And, he looked phenomenal in that fight. Yes, Cowboy is a historically slow starter, and Conor can come out like lightning. But to do what he did to Cowboy in that manner and that quickly, it was impressive nonetheless. I don't think there's anything you can say about it. Well, I mean, you could say something about it, Stephen A. Thompson, but you wouldn't really be looked too kindly upon by the MMA community saying those kind of things. So, I mean, it was really impressive. But coming back a year later, he came back a year later to take on Dustin Poirier. Hadn't had a fight in between that time. Now, COVID did play a factor in that, and obviously the UFC does not want to use Conor McGregor if they can't have if they can't have a crowd, because that's where they generate their revenue for Conor McGregor. Yes, he'll get the pay-per-view buys, and honestly, I think even with the pay-per-view buys, excuse me, even with COVID, Conor McGregor would have had the pay-per-view buys to warrant having a Conor McGregor fight in 2020 outside of the fight that he had with Cowboy. The UFC didn't agree with that stance, and that's perfectly understandable. It's their company, like they're the ones with everything to lose. But I didn't think it was the best idea for Conor to come out and take on Dustin Poirier without having kind of another, I don't want to say buffer fight, because I think that's a kind of a disrespectful take for his fight with Cowboy. I don't think Cowboy Cerrone is a buffer fight for anybody. But I think without a second fight in between that Cowboy fight and the Dustin fight back in January, I didn't think that was the greatest way to go. Dustin had that war with Dan Hooker last year, so it was a question of, maybe Dustin is still a little run down from that. I didn't buy into that at all. I thought Dustin had plenty of time to recover. What we're talking about, that fight was in June, and this fight wasn't taking place until January. So, he's probably, I say take off. He's still obviously training, but he's not fight training. He's not in fight camp. He's, so I believe it was June. I'm almost 100% confident it was June of 2020. So, figure he'll take, until maybe November off, so to speak, or take it lighter, October, November area, whenever they signed the deal to have the second fight with Conor there in January, and then he starts training. So, he had a good amount of time to recover. And Dustin isn't one of those guys that we see, that'll fade. So, I mean, and I said going into that fight, I thought it was a really dangerous fight for Conor to take, and my suspicions ended up being correct. I thought that first round was actually pretty competitive, but Conor was eating a lot of those calf kicks, and I've talked, and you guys have heard me talk about those calf kicks probably in every episode of the show so far. So, I mean, the biggest question I have for this bout coming up is how much has Conor worked on avoiding those calf kicks? Okay, I think if Conor has worked and he has gotten a good game plan to avoid those calf kicks, I think it'll be a very interesting fight this time around again, and I don't think it will look anything like the first two did, where Conor got the early knockout of Dustin in their first bout, and Dustin got that second round knockout of Conor in their second bout. I think I think Dustin's win. I'm not taking anything away from the power in the hands of Dustin Poirier here. Please don't take it this way, guys. But what I'm saying here is I think without those calf kicks, I don't know that Dustin Poirier finishes Conor McGregor that soon as he did in their second fight. So if Conor can find a way to defend those calf kicks well, I think we have a little bit of a longer fight, and I think it gets a lot more interesting. Next fight there, Gilbert Burns, Stephen Thompson. I think that's going to be a really great fight. Gilbert Burns is really, 2020 was really the year for Gilbert Burns. I thought he looked really impressive against Kamaru Usman until he got stopped in their fight. Stephen Thompson is a different being, though. You know, Stephen Thompson comes from that point karate fighting background. He is a lot more mobile. He can, you know, get in and out. He's kind of a little bit more unorthodox for what we would term traditional MMA now. So I think that's going to be a really interesting bout. A perfect co-main event, in my opinion, for this card. And then, of course, Sugar Sean O'Malley taking on, honestly, no disrespect to him, no disrespect to Chris Martino, but Sugar Sean O'Malley taking on pretty much an unheard of guy. I'm a no-name guy. I don't mean any disrespect by that, but I mean, up until last week, a week and a half ago, whenever this fight came about because of O'Malley's first opponent dropping out, you know, I'd never heard of Chris Martino, so I don't think this is going to be the debut that this man wants. You know, I hope it ends up being a great fight. You know, I like Sugar Sean. I think he's a pretty entertaining guy. But I for the stock, so to speak, of Chris Martino, I hope he has a good showing. Next card we'll touch on briefly here. The UFC Fight Night card, July 17th, Islam Makhachev coming back against Thiago Moises. Finally, Makhachev is getting back in there. He had some rough luck with catching COVID and some lasting effects from that. Seems like he is back on track. He's ready to go. I would still love to see him against I'm sorry, I'm thinking of somebody else. With you know, I think it's going to be an interesting fight as well. Islam has definitely been on a roll, and I'm sorry, Makhachev did not catch COVID. I'm thinking of Hamzat Chimaev. I'm sorry. Disregard what I just said there, guys. Islam Makhachev coming back in here, though. He's been on a roll. I think this is a good test for him. The fight, honestly, though, the fight that I'm looking forward to most seeing is that co-main event, the Marion Reneau versus Miesha Tate. Miesha Tate's been retired for quite a few years here. Be interesting to see how she comes back in. Again, she's another one of those persons, like Conor, where, you know, when she retired, the calf kick was not that big of a deal. It wasn't as prominent. You had maybe a handful of people doing it. Now everybody's doing it. Let's see how she does. Let's see how she adjusts to it. Let's see if she has adjusted to it better, or will adjust to it better than Conor did in his fight against Dustin earlier this year. Next card I want to touch on real quick here. July 24th, UFC Fight Night, Corey Sandhagen versus TJ Dillashaw. Like I said before, TJ Dillashaw coming off that 2-year ban from the sport for being caught with EPO, the erythropoietin, excuse me. So for some of you guys, real brief rundown of what EPO is. EPO is essentially what Lance Armstrong was also busted for, or what he wasn't busted for it. He never tested positive on a test, but what he admitted to doing, and what his team had, multiple team members had accused him of doing, was EPO. So what they do is they take your blood out, they spin it, they re-inject it, and then it's supposed to help you kind of uptake more oxygen, get you better recovery, so that you can, and help with your endurance, so that you can go harder longer. So that is essentially that's essentially what it does, and that is what TJ Dillashaw was busted for. So now, knowing that he's been busted for it, knowing that they're most likely going to be testing him specifically for that, he's obviously either going to A, have a harder time doing it, or B, just not be able to do it altogether. And it's going to be interesting to see that if TJ Dillashaw's ultimate success against Renan Barão, Joe Soto, Renan Barão again, like all those fights that TJ had, where it was like, this guy's just not, like, how is this man doing this? You know, his two fights against, or his fight against Kobe. No, he had two fights. Sorry, his two fights against Cody Garbrandt. His fight against Dominic Cruz, which I thought he won that fight against Dominic Cruz. You know, it was a very close fight. I'm not saying that he absolutely blew Dominic Cruz out of the water, but I thought he did enough to win that fight and retain the belt. Judges on that night disagreed and awarded the belt to Dominic Cruz again. But it'll be interesting to see if that TJ Dillashaw was for real, or if that was TJ Dillashaw with the help of EPO. I don't know that answer. I don't know that TJ and Dwayne Ludwig, who is his head coach, know that answer. Looks like we're gonna have to take, you know, his next 2, 3, 4 fights and really see if you know what's what. Last two cards I want to touch on real quick here, guys. Bellator 263 card on July 31st. Patricio Pitbull versus AJ McKee. Honestly, guys, I'm probably more excited about this fight than the Uriah Hall-Sean Strickland fight on that same night. No disrespect to those two gentlemen, but Patricio Pitbull and AJ McKee, these two have been chirping back and forth for the better part of this. Actually, they've been chatting back and forth for the better part of AJ McKee's career in Bellator. Like I said, it's the Bellator Featherweight World Grand Prix semifinal bout, and it's also for the Bellator Featherweight Championship of the World Championship bout. So, this is going to be a really interesting fight. AJ McKee is undefeated. Patricio Pitbull is a monster. You know, AJ McKee has all the confidence in the world. Patricio Pitbull is a monster. So it is going to be a very interesting fight. I'm super excited for this fight. I've been looking forward to this fight since the onset of the tournament. It's finally here. I cannot wait, guys. July 31st. If you think that I will be doing anything other than just having a moment where I am just so anxious for this bout to start on July 31st. If you think I'm doing anything other than being that anxious for that bout, you're wrong. Sorry, guys. You're wrong. That fight is the one to look forward to. Now, here's the last one I'm going to touch on. July 24th, Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder 3 for Tyson Fury's WBC Heavyweight Championship of the World. This fight, I might need to have like an iPad up, as well as my TV or my computer up as well as the TV, so that I can stream the Cody Sandhagen versus TJ Dillashaw fight and the Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder 3 fight at the same time, because I don't know which one of those fights that I would want to watch more. Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder 3 is it was kind of, in my opinion, it was an unexpected bout that was made. Originally, it was supposed to be Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua, and that fight would have been for the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, or to determine the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. Deontay Wilder said, hey, no, you have to fight me next, and a independent arbitrator said, yeah, you have to fight him next. So Tyson Fury is going to take on Deontay Wilder Deontay Wilder for their third bout of their trilogy fight, or their trilogy set here on July 24th. Now, that first fight was amazing. Tyson Fury, everybody only talks about the 12th round because, quite frankly, the 12th round was something we had never seen before. Tyson Fury looked like he was done. Now, Tyson Fury has also gone on record and said, hey, no, I was looking at the ref and I was watching him count the whole time, so I knew when to get up. Okay, I'm not that man. I wasn't where he was that night. But being in the healthcare field that I am, and knowing how people look when they're not all put together, it kind of looked like that there, Chief. But then he got up literally it was like he became the Undertaker in a WWE event, and he popped up back to life and was just like, let's do this. Put Deontay Wilder on his back foot the rest of that round. Won that round, which is surprising, but in my opinion, he won that round. And then he took that put Deontay on his back foot mindset into their second fight. Deontay Wilder has, of course, come out with all sorts of accusations and conspiracy theories, for lack of a better term, since that bout. I'm guys, I'm sorry, I don't buy any of them. I don't. I also don't know that this social media campaign that Deontay Wilder is going on, where he's showing videos of him bench pressing 300 pounds with not the greatest of forms. Now, I'm not saying that I can bench press 300 pounds, but what I can bench press, I can at least do with good form. I think that's the most important thing. It's like, hey, look, man, you got to have good form or you're going to hurt yourself, and then guess what? You can't fight for the title anyway. But, you know, that's him and his trainers can work through that on their own. I don't think that is the greatest. I don't think that social media campaign that he's got going there, though, is the greatest way to go about it. Especially with some of the accusations that he had coming out after the fight of, you know, the glove scandal from Tyson Fury. He didn't have his hand all the way in the glove. He had egg weight in the glove. You know, Deontay Wilder's trainer was working with Tyson Fury's camp. His trainer put something in his water. The ring gear that he walked out with was 40 pounds and it tired his legs out. And it's like, you know, it was just so much, guys. I don't believe any of them. I really don't. I'm not saying that, you know, what he thinks is wrong. I haven't seen any evidence to show to say otherwise, that those accusations should hold any weight. And for some of the things that have come out that people have been like, that's proof. I've also seen videos that seemingly dispel or disprove those beliefs. So either way, I think this is going to be an exciting fight. I think this is the biggest fight for boxing this year. I don't know that any fight gets bigger than that, you know, unless Canelo fights Triple G again. Yes, Manny Pacquiao is coming back, you know, just a couple of weeks after this fight, but I don't think any fight this year gets bigger than this one. And it kind of got made real quick, and it got big real quick. Well, it didn't get big real quick. It got made real quick, and it got to the level it should have been, or it should be, you know, in an ample amount, and quite frankly, overnight, and quite frankly, a second. As soon as they announced that the fight made, it was news. It was everywhere, as it should be. So, super excited for this fight. Like I said, guys, all these cards are shaping up to be really good. Super excited for them. It's going to be a great month of fights, you know, to kick off the second half of the year. Like I said, in the front half of the year, I thought that, you know, that stretch of 6 months was some of the greatest fights that were lined up that I can remember in recent memory. And hopefully this kind of July sets up for the rest of the year to be great fights across the board for MMA, boxing, and just all combat sports in general. So there you go, guys. That's going to be the show for today. Like I said, a little bit of a shorter one, just to kind of give you those rundowns of the cards that I'm looking out for this month. You should keep an eye out for them again as well. As always, if you guys feel like any of those cards are ones that you want to hear my take on or hear, you know, my analysis of, shoot me a message, drop it in the comments, everything like that. And I'll definitely take that into consideration for that being the card that I give you guys for the breakdown. Other than that, guys, as always, stay happy, healthy, and safe. Congratulations. You just went one more round with Rob. Have a good one, guys. We'll see you on the next one.